matter comes from calculations showing that many galaxies would fly apart, or that they would not have been formed or would not move as they do if they did not contain a large amount of unseen matter. Because of earlier findings, scientists feel they can infer that dark matter exists, even though physical evidence of its existence is nowhere to be found. There are things that cannot be explained by science. Okay, for example, qualia in relation to color and music perception. Is it fair then to assert scientific terms and attempt to explain why humans experience certain qualia? How many other concepts have been explained like this, and where do we draw the line for inventing imaginative elucidations and labeling it as science? It has been brought to the public's attention that most of the public research is wrong. Researchers, in an attempt to have their works published, manipulate the data and decide to analyze it in a way that will support their hypothesis. Outliers are important in data, and when they go against the researcher's data, they may leave them out, which only gives the public a false idea about the research. Researchers may also limit their sample sizes or select subjects in their attempt who will yield positive results. How reliable is science? I like to finish by asking you to answer these questions. Can you derive true knowledge from a source that is biased, that is always changing, that is discovered with political motivations, a source founded on subjective empirical evidence? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And if we could move over to the defense, that would be awesome.
Okay. We're defending the claim that science is true knowledge. So we believe that true knowledge is knowledge that is definitely proven through experimentation and observation, and we can know it for certain. One of the main reasons for science is to find true knowledge about the Earth using scientific principles. Although we may never be completely sure, although we may never be completely sure about what true knowledge includes, science is the best way and the closest way we can get to finding true knowledge about the world. Through searching for true knowledge, scientists have discovered and advanced society so much and provided us with information and new innovations that we are relying on. Like medicine and technology, we can rely on science because in order for information to be accepted by the scientific community, scientists must have proof and reasoning behind their claims. The scientific method allows scientists to narrow their experience down in order to find the most accurate solutions. Scientists are also expected to fact check each other to prevent biases and mistakes from affecting their research. Of course, this does sometimes happen, but with time and further research, false claims and bias affected research will most likely be disproven, making this no longer included in science or true knowledge. An example of this is how the theories of evolutions have changed drastically throughout history, but scientists have been able to disprove past theories, and while the present theory might be changed again in the future, this is just part of the scientific process of finding true knowledge. And Nikhil is going to finish the opening statement.
Yeah, continuing upon Zora's point, science has developed and advanced humans very much. Scientific knowledge allows us to develop new technologies, solve practical problems, and make informed decisions, both individually and collectively. Looking at an example from history, scientific discovery led to the development of the printing press, which gave people access to information which led to development in technology and expanding of the universe of science. We believe that science is a way where people can test and see with their own eyes instead of just believing others. Another example is during the Renaissance and the scientific revolution, there were many ideas that were perpetuated through society. For example, people believed that the Earth was the center of, or people believed that the sun was the center of the solar system, but this was later disproven by Nicholas Copernicus. Let me say that again. For example, people believed that the Earth was the center of the solar system, but this was later disproven by Nicholas Copernicus and his heliocentric theory, which said that the sun was in fact the center of the solar system. For example, we're generally believing an idea based on faith without actually experiencing it for themselves. Looking at a more modern and personal example, the creation of the COVID-19 vaccine. It's aiding so many around the world. In Indiana, almost 1 million have been delivered this dose. Looking at another aspect of science, space exploration, the first video footage back from Mars rover showing us the vast opportunities that science has provided us with. This just shows a few examples of how science has impacted our lives and provided us with a path towards true knowledge. Yes, there are faults in science, but provides the world with so many advancements that are constantly developing.
All right, I have a question, and then for the prosecution to start us off. I would like to know what your definition of knowledge is. How would you define knowledge in this context?
Okay. Since everyone's super eager to answer, I will answer as well. Knowledge is, oh, knowledge is factual statements. It it is not able to be proven wrong.
Okay. Would you give knowledge a purpose? What purpose would you say knowledge serves?
I would say knowledge is meant to educate and further society.
Okay,
And
thank you.
prevent-
So you stated in your opening statement that science is always changing and therefore we can't rely on it. But just because science is always changing, does this mean, or does this discredit the previous things we've learned from science?
Yes, this does, because in many instances, things that we learn from science are proven wrong, and so it doesn't make very much sense to continue using that. And this goes with our overall argument that science is not a reliable source, because we have to sit and think, what have we learned from science that might be proven wrong in the future? Like, what exactly is correct that we claim to know from science?
I have a question. Oh shoot. I have a question about the previous point made. You said that true knowledge can't be proven wrong and is factual, but what is like, how do you know if something's true? How do you know if something can't be proven wrong as factual? Because you say that science can be proven wrong and can change, but other ways of finding true knowledge can also be changed and proven wrong. So how do you? Yeah.
Perhaps their true knowledge hasn't yet been discovered.
So
Be-
to elaborate on that point you just made, would you say that there is no such thing as true knowledge and that science is just a progression towards true knowledge?
I feel like science is digging a hole to where they think true knowledge is buried. But there are other avenues to get there, and
So-
science isn't the way.
What would you say those other avenues are if they aren't science?
That is not the topic at this moment. We are prosecuting science.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay, so you have mentioned multiple times that science has been proven wrong, but as we've also previously mentioned, the fact that science has been proven wrong leads us to make more and more accurate conclusions as soon as we go. So that ability to accept those errors and to use them to make a correct statement, do you not feel that actually puts us closer to educating and furthering society, as you said the definition of knowledge was?
I'd like you to imagine this scenario, Sophie. You get your first haircut when you are 4, and it's not amazing, but as you get older, you find what haircut suits you best. You're never going to find the perfect haircut, but you're always going to get closer to where that is. And science is just like that haircut. We're never going to get quite there, but we're always going to try to get closer. But how close is close enough? Because to me, if we've been trying to figure out what the heck an atom is for over 3,000 years, and we still haven't figured it out, how important is that to actually, keep on clipping away, keep on going back to the barber for? I don't think it's that important, and I don't think we should continue doing that.
On this topic of what Christian has been pointing out to us, I think it's important to acknowledge the fact that in the scientific method, it is a process in which we analyze both going through a multi-step situation in which we question something to get an answer. And in our opening statement, we had acknowledged the fact that there have been iteration upon iteration of answers upon which have been reached through this method. However, what Christian has been getting at in his discussion is that how can we ever know when the final iteration will be reached? How do we know if that final iteration will be the correct one? Because what he's saying is that the method will never truly end, and therefore there will never be a true answer, and therefore we cannot find true knowledge through science. What this means is that in our definition of knowledge, which Christian has pointed out to us, that knowledge cannot, like a true source of knowledge, like a true understanding of knowledge is something that cannot be disproven. It's something that is really hard to find, and we might never actually find in our lifetimes or in any lifetime at all. Because to find knowledge or true knowledge, it required to have a absolute understanding, which I doubt anyone could ever achieve.
Okay,
All right.
so
Yeah, go ahead, Sophie. I think we understand the point, and then this will be our last question for this one if Sophie's got one.
okay, so you've mentioned that true knowledge is unable to be proven wrong, but isn't many scientific ideas at this moment unable to be proven wrong? We are not able to prove if there's black matter, if there's dark matter or not. We're not able to prove wrong the existence of an atom. There's many scientific hypotheses that are currently unable to be proved wrong, as they're still hypotheses, but they cannot be proven wrong. So by your definition, they would be true knowledge.
I think an important part of that question is that they have not been proven wrong yet. And as we advance, we will hopefully be able to find a way to prove this wrong. And that the fact that there is a possibility that these can be proven wrong because they were found by science means that they were not true knowledge.
I'd like to add on that as well. You said hypothetical. In hypotheticals, we aren't even sure if those are real. So how can you be sure in your own statement that your own statement was correct? Answer me that.
All right, let's move on to the defense. I just would like to have a clarification of what I'm pretty sure your point is. So tell me if I'm wrong. Your point is that true knowledge is what has helped us as a society advance. And even though that hasn't always necessarily been correct, it's always improving itself. And, you know, that cycle of getting better and better and better is us getting closer and closer to knowledge, which for you is enough to be counted as true knowledge, right? This for the defense.
Yes, I think that is our main point. I think that yeah, the idea that all of the mistakes that the prosecution team was talking about, or the errors that science has made, which have then had like multiple iterations of the atom model and things like that. I think you can just see those as all being steps taken to getting closer to being true knowledge. So each one is not, I don't think, a mistake or a faulty like idea. It's just a lack of technology at the time, which then people have improved upon and have gotten closer and closer to that idea of true knowledge. So yes.
And that gap is small enough to be considered true knowledge. Like, okay.
Wouldn't this definition of true knowledge almost cut out the idea of truth from the equation? Deny the fact that there is an objective truth in the universe and our reality? If you're saying it's just a process of finding new true knowledge to fit our current situation in which we're building upon the technology of our time?
I don't think you can have a process of finding true knowledge
Hold on.
Hey, John, which group are you?
I'm in the prosecution team.
Okay, we're only talking the defense right now. We made that decision earlier, so thank you, but we just want to talk
I
about
thought we were moving on. Sorry.
You're good.
Can you repeat that question then again? Because
Yeah, sure, totally. That was okay. So what I was saying is, if you're talking about true knowledge as something that just allows us to build on innovation with using our technology of the time to improve humanity or improve scientific achievements, whatever, wouldn't that be denying the truth part of the equation, denying the fact that there is an objective truth in our reality?
I think I understand what you're saying. I think there's still truth within that objective truth that we're adding on to. If there's like an original general truth that we are expanding upon, like there's just a general truth, and we're using that general truth that we already know to expand and create more truth or more true knowledge. I don't think that it's just a steady process to finding true knowledge. It's a process of using true knowledge to find more true knowledge. If that makes sense.
So it's
I-
cumulative.
So I would also just like to say that I think that the idea of you saying that there's no truth or objective truth is, I think, incorrect, because you can say that the process of finding each one of those is consistently true. It's just, it depends on the different technologies that were available and the way that that's progressed. But I think that the method of people finding those discoveries for each one is consistently truth.
As you just said, you said that the method of people finding discoveries is consistently truth. Then you sort of mentioned this in your opening statement, but then how would you account for the many mistakes made in science, the many false claims, the many biases, and the fact that that could damage or hinder what we determine to be true?
Those faults or biases, and especially what was called upon earlier, of like the idea of theories, which are often either proven right or wrong as we develop in our technology. Those are set like those aren't the majority of science, and that isn't the majority of what science is based on. But the majority, that is the minority of science, and therefore, just because that isn't truthful doesn't make the rest not truthful. Here, if you want to.
Okay, so you've mentioned that bias is the minority of science, but so I have two questions. One, do you think all humans are biased?
Yes.
So if humans are the ones doing science, would you agree that a majority of science up to this point, as we are still unable to have AI do all steps of a scientific process, that all science is biased to some degree?
Well, there are sciences that don't involve bias. If I wanted to find out the physics of a vehicle and its acceleration or speed, if I had how far it went in meters or in something close, if I had how many seconds it took for that vehicle to get there, there wouldn't be bias involved into finding the ultimate truthful result.
All right, if all the justices are good, I definitely would like to start talking to them, deliberation. Thank you guys to both groups.
They need to give
Claire has
their-
one more.
No,
Sorry?
I'm just saying they need to give their.
Oh, you're right, closing
statements.
statements. You're right, sorry. Go ahead, let's start with the closing statement of the prosecution, then we'll move to the defense.
True knowledge cannot be attained through science. The flaws in the scientific method and human nature have invalidated science as a true source of knowledge. With the scientific method, empirical evidence relies on subjectiveness. Empirical evidence is about perspective and perception. Our senses differ from one another as witnessed in the dress phenomenon. Bias also influences scientific studies. Humans are biased beings. True knowledge is unbiased. Personal gain, such as business motives, can lead to scientific studies in favor of a certain view. Politics can also drive scientific studies to support one side or the other, like with the response to the coronavirus. This bias has also led to the manipulation of data, which has led to a widespread belief in false information. Science has not only been manipulated, but science has also failed to predict the arrival of the coronavirus. Science fails in being objective as a whole. Science is also limited in knowledge through technology. We will not fully know the true answer through science. The truths of science have failed to remain consistent as the truth. The accepted views in science have been inconsistent throughout history, such as the belief in the characteristics of subatomic particles that have evolved over time. Theories have been not proven wrong yet. There is a potential these theories are wrong. This error in knowledge through science has demonstrated the unreliable nature of science. Not only has science been inconsistent, but most of the published research is false or inaccurate. Ultimately, science has failed humanity as a true source of knowledge.
Thank you very much. Let's move to the defense's closing statement, please.
Okay. So, science is a closer, am I going through? Okay, I was just making sure because I couldn't hear myself anymore. Science is a closer way to obtaining true knowledge than faith is. It is, oh, okay. False information or less accurate information is pushed out at a quicker rate than faith, making it more reliable in general. And there's much more quantitative evidence rather than qualitative evidence that can be used in regard to gathering information. Faith relies almost entirely on qualia, whereas, sorry. Anyhow, the printing press spread information across the world, and the Renaissance and scientific revolution proved many things, and many things were invented during this time period, including the disprovement of geocentrism and the proving of heliocentrism. It was mentioned that COVID was not predicted by science. However, it was predicted by science many months in advance, but was denied by many people around the world due to their lack of faith in it. The creation of the COVID vaccine was also thanks to science, and many faults in science have been disproven and made more accurate in the future anyways. It was mentioned earlier that we do not know if science is in its final iteration. However, I argue that that is actually a better thing for the pursuit of true knowledge. If you deem that something is in its final iteration prior to it being in its final iteration, it becomes more solidified as the truth, even if it is not.
Okay, I think that was it. So thank you so much to both groups. We'll definitely be talking about this for a chunk of time.
All right, great. I'm going to send you guys into your breakout rooms. Justices, when you're ready, just come on back, and that'll be my cue to bring everybody else back as well. Justices, I know you could probably process what these fine advocates said, but we're looking probably somewhere around 6 or 7 minutes, if that's possible. All right, guys, here you go. You may.
Mr. Hodson, can you add me to the breakout room?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, buddy. All right, justices, the floor is yours.
All right, first of all, we'd like to say well done and thank you to both teams. It was really close. The vote ended up being 3-2. So because of what we felt was a more, well, what the majority felt was a more well-rounded argument that overall just was a little bit better, we are giving it to the defense. However, Claire and I dissented and feel that the prosecution's point that we will never quite get to true knowledge, we will always be almost there, was strong enough to win, but we were overruled.
There we go. We had a 3-2 split. Those of you virtual, I love you very much. Have a fantastic weekend. Well done, everybody. Justices, thank you. Prosecution, defense, thank you. We'll see you guys next week to write the essay. Take care, take care, take care.
Mr. Hodgson, will anything be due Wednesday?
Great question, Charlotte. And yes, in class, we're going to write a short, like 1-page essay. Part of it is going to be your reflection on how you thought the trial went. And part of it is going to be your answer to the unit question, which is what counts for evidence. If you want to see the rubric and directions for that, they're in the original directions for this trial. You can find them on campus.
All right, and we're doing that in class, so we aren't doing any prep beforehand or anything?
No, yeah, we'll do it in class. I mean, if you want to prep for it, I mean, there's no secret about it. I mean, you know what you need to write about if you look at the directions. So you're more than welcome to prep for it if you want, or you can just write it in class.
All right.
Cool.
Yep.
All right.